The maintenance base smelled like oil and metal. Jack Morrison wiped his hands on a dirty rag and looked at the broken exosuit in front of him. The hydraulic line had burst during combat, leaving the armor useless. He had seen this kind of damage 1,000 times before. Jack was 67 years old. His hair was silver and his hands were covered in old scars. He worked alone in the bay, fixing equipment that young soldiers broke in battle. Most people on the base thought he was just another mechanic. Nobody asked him questions. Nobody bothered him. That was how Jack wanted it. Forward operating base Sentinel sat on the edge of Carvos Prime, a frontier world where humans and aliens worked together. The base was huge, with landing pads for ships, barracks for soldiers, and command centers that buzzed with activity day and night. The Galactic Defense Coalition ran the base. Humans were the newest members. Having joined the coalition only 30 years ago, Jack had been working in the bay for 5 years. He came early, left late, and kept to himself. The younger troops barely noticed him. To them, he was just the old man who fixed their gear. The bay door hissed open. Jack looked up and saw 3 Marines walk in. They were young, probably in their 20s, and they carried damaged equipment. The leader was a human with dark hair and a confident walk. Behind him came a Vrexian, a massive creature with 4 arms and thick armor plating. The third was a Selkith, thin and quick, with large eyes that could see in multiple light spectrums. "Hey, old-timer," the human Marine said. "Got some gear that needs fixing." Jack nodded and walked over. "What happened?" "Skirmish near the eastern ridge," the Marine said. "Krell scouts. We pushed them back, but my rifle took a hit." He held up a plasma rifle with a cracked power cell. Jack took the weapon and examined it. "This will take an hour. Maybe 2. "That's fine," the Marine said. He extended his hand. "I'm Corporal Danny Hayes. This is Krath and Jenza." Jack shook his hand briefly. Jack Morrison. The 3 Marines settled into the bay while Jack worked. They were loud and full of energy, the way young soldiers always were after their first real fight. They talked about the battle, replaying each moment with excited voices. "Did you see when I flanked those 2 scouts?" Danny said. "Clean shots. Both down in seconds." Krath made a rumbling sound that might have been laughter. "You call that flanking? I charged straight through their line. That is how Vrexians fight." "You both made noise like a ground transport," Jenza said in a high, clicking voice. "I moved through their position without a sound. They never knew I was there." Danny grinned. "That's why they call you Whisper and they call you Hardline, because you never back down," Jenza replied. "What about you, Krath?" Danny asked. "How did you get The Vrexian warrior flexed his forearms. "I tore through a bunker door with my bare hands. The name was given that day." They continued talking, sharing stories and laughing. Jack worked quietly, replacing the power cell and rewiring the rifle's internal systems. He had done this repair so many times he could do it with his eyes closed. Jensa's large eyes focused on Jack. "What about you, human? Did you ever serve in the military?" Jack's hands paused for just a moment. Then he continued working. "Long time ago, did you have a call sign?" Danny asked. He sounded curious, but also slightly condescending, the way young people sometimes talk to the elderly. Jack set down his tools. He looked at the 3 Marines for a long moment. The bay suddenly felt very quiet, despite the distant hum of the base's generators. "IRON-13," Jack said simply. The reaction was instant. Krath's forearms locked in place. His mandibles, which had been moving constantly, froze completely. Jensa's optical sensors widened so much that Jack could see the inner mechanisms. Even Danny, who clearly did not understand the significance, stopped smiling. "You... Krath's voice was barely a whisper. "You are Iron..." Jack turned back to his work. "Was... long time ago." Jensa stood up quickly. The Selkith's movements, usually graceful and controlled, were jerky and uncertain. "The Iron... from the Battle of Kessler Station." "That's the one," Jack said. Danny looked between his alien squadmates and the old mechanic. "Someone want to fill me in?" Krath moved closer to Jack, his massive form trembling slightly. "IRON-13 is legend among the Coalition. Every species knows the story. Every warrior knows the name." "What story?" Danny asked. Before anyone could answer, Jensa was already moving toward the bay exit. "I need to inform the commander. He needs to know." "Wait," Jack said. But the Selkith was already gone, moving with incredible speed. Danny stared at Jack with new eyes. "What did you do?" Jack picked up the repaired rifle and handed it to the corporal. "Survived when I should not have. Lost people I should have saved. Nothing special, nothing special." Krath's voice rose. "You held Kessler Station for 3 days against 5,000 Krell. You saved the Coalition science team. You changed the war." Jack's jaw tightened. "I did my job." A lot of good people died doing theirs. The bay door opened again. This time, a group of alien officers entered. A Drachnary admiral led them, his scales gleaming under the bay lights. Other species followed, including a Quelari diplomat and 2 Vrexian command officers. Word was spreading through the base like fire through dry grass. Within minutes, more personnel arrived. They crowded at the bay entrance, trying to get a look at the old mechanic who had just revealed himself. Admiral Thalos approached Jack slowly, with obvious respect. The Drachnary was nearly 8 feet tall, with horns that curved back from his head and eyes that glowed faintly yellow. Sergeant Morrison, the Admiral said. It is an honor. Jack straightened up and met the Admiral's gaze. I'm just a mechanic now, sir. You are IRON-13, Talos said firmly. That will never change. Jack looked around the bay at all the faces staring at him. Humans, Vrexians, Selkith, Drachnary, and others. Young and old. Officers and enlisted. They all looked at him with the same expression. Respect. Even fear. Jack set down his tools and wiped his hands on his rag again. His quiet life had just ended. The past he had tried to bury had come back. Danny Hayes stood nearby, his rifle forgotten in his hands. He looked at the old man he had called old-timer just minutes ago and realized he had no idea who he had been talking to. Jack Morrison, the forgotten mechanic, was gone. In his place stood the legend. IRON-13 had returned, whether he wanted to or not. The bay was silent except for the hum of machines and the distant sounds of the base. Everyone waited to see what the legend would do next. Jack picked up his tools and went back to work. I've got equipment to fix, he said quietly. Unless someone needs something else. Nobody moved. They just watched him work, the way students watch a master, the way soldiers watch a hero. The legend of IRON-13 had awakened. By the next morning, everyone on Forward Operating Base Sentinel knew. The old mechanic in Base 7 was IRON-13. The story spread through mess halls and barracks, over secure channels and casual conversations. Veterans who had heard the tales during their training now realized the legend was real and living among them. Jack arrived at the maintenance bay before dawn, hoping to avoid the attention. But when he opened the door, he found Admiral Thalos waiting inside. The Drachnary commander stood near Jack's workbench, examining an old photo frame that Jack kept hidden in a drawer. The photo showed 12 humans in combat armor. They were younger, harder, covered in dust and blood. Jack was in the center, his face grim but his eyes alive in a way they had not been for decades. Iron Squad, Thalos said softly. I have seen this image in the Coalition Military Museum, but that copy is incomplete. 3 faces are blurred. Jack took the frame gently and placed it back in the drawer. Those 3 did not want to be remembered. I honored their wishes. Thalos nodded slowly. Will you tell me what happened? The true story, not the official reports. Jack sat down on his work stool. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he began to speak. 25 years ago, the Krell were pushing hard into Coalition space. They were different from other enemies. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They just consumed everything in their path. The Admiral listened without interrupting. Humanity had just joined the Coalition, Jack continued. Most alien species did not trust us. They thought we were too violent, too unpredictable. We needed to prove ourselves. Jack pulled out a small metal disc from his pocket. It was worn smooth from years of handling. The number 13 was barely visible on its surface. I was a sergeant in the Terran Marines. They put together special drop teams for high-risk missions. We called ourselves Iron Squad because we dropped into hell in metal coffins and somehow made it out. The dropships, Thalos said. Right, old Mark 7 pods. No weapons, no shields. Just engines and prayer. We dropped from orbit straight into combat zones. Jack's fingers traced the edge of the disk. Mission 13 was supposed to be simple. Extract a science team from Kessler Research Station. The Krell had overrun the planet, but the scientists were holed up in the underground labs. Intelligence said we had a 6-hour window before Krell reinforcements arrived. Intelligence was wrong, Thalos guessed. Intelligence was very wrong. We dropped in clean, 12 of us, including me. The plan was to reach the station, grab the science team, and hold the landing zone for extraction. Should have taken 4 hours. Jack stood and walked to the bay window. Outside, young Marines ran morning drills. Their movements were sharp and confident. We reached the station fine, found the science team right where they were supposed to be. 43 researchers from 6 different species. Drachnary, Quelari, Selkati, Vrexian, human, and 2 others. Jack's voice grew quieter. That's when everything went wrong. The Krell arrived early, Thalos said. Not just early. They came in force. Thousands of them. and they hit our dropship first. Blew it apart before it even touched down. We were trapped underground with 43 civilians and no way off the planet. Jack turned back to face the Admiral. I had two choices. Stay in the bunker and wait for rescue that might never come, or fight our way to an alternate extraction point 15 kilometers away through Krell-controlled territory. You chose to fight, I chose to move. Staying meant dying slowly. Moving meant maybe dying quickly, but at least we had a chance. Jack sat back down. We left the station at night. 43 civilians who had never held weapons, protected by 12 soldiers who knew we were already dead. Talos moved closer. How did you survive? We did not try to fight the Krell army. We avoided them. When we could not avoid them, we hit fast and disappeared. Guerrilla tactics. My squad knew how to move quiet and strike hard. Jack's eyes grew distant, seeing things the Admiral could not. The first night, we lost 2 people. Private Ken Lewis stepped on a mine. Corporal Sue Price died holding off a Krell patrol so the civilians could escape. The second day, we lost 3 more. Lieutenant Carson Blake, Sergeant Pete Wagner, and Private Linda Gomez. They volunteered to create a diversion at a Krell supply depot. It worked. The civilians got through. And you kept moving, Talos said. We kept moving. By the third day, we were down to 7 soldiers and we had lost 2 civilians to injuries. But we were close to the extraction point. Just 5 more kilometers. Jack stood again, unable to sit still with the memories pressing down on him. That's when we hit the main Krell force. They were dug in between us and the extraction zone. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. No way around. No time to wait. So you went through, Talos said. So we went through. I sent my best scout, Joey Crawford, ahead to find weak points. He never came back. We later found his body. He had taken out a Krell communications hub before they killed him. Jack's hands clenched into fists. 7 soldiers left. We rigged every explosive we had, made noise bombs, fire traps, anything to cause confusion. Then we hit them at dawn, not to win, just to open a gap long enough for the civilians to run through. The bay was silent, except for Jack's voice. Lisa Chen died in the first 30 seconds. Combat medic, best person I ever knew. She was covering the civilians when a Krell blade took her. Greg Palmer went next, buying us 10 more seconds. Then Ron Gibson, holding a choke point so the scientists could climb over rubble. Jack's voice cracked slightly, but he kept talking. 4 of us left. Me, my second-in-command, Harry Stone, sniper Nicole Grant, and demolitions expert Victor Kane. We held them for 40 minutes. 40 minutes of constant fighting. When we ran out of ammunition, we used Krell weapons. When those broke, we used blades. When the blades dulled, we used rocks in our hands. Talos stood completely still, honoring the story with his silence. Coalition ships finally arrived. Dropships came down under heavy fire. We got the scientists on board. All 41 survivors. Victor stayed behind to blow the charges that would cover the retreat. He knew it was a one-way trip. He smiled at me before he pressed the trigger. Jack sat down heavily, suddenly looking every one of his 67 years. 3 of us made it back. Me, Harry, and Nicole. Out of 12, but we brought back 41 civilians. Those scientists went on to develop the shield generators that protect every coalition ship now. Their work saved millions of lives. You changed the war, Talos said. We lost 8 good people, Jack replied. 8 people who trusted me to bring them home. The Admiral walked to the workbench and placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. For a Drachnary, the gesture was deeply significant. Those 8 warriors died so that 41 could live, so that millions could live. They did not die because you failed them. They died because they succeeded in their mission. Jack said nothing. You carry their loss, Talos continued. But you do not carry their failure. They had no failure, only victory and sacrifice. I could have planned better, been faster, smarter. You could have been dead, Talos said firmly. You faced impossible odds and you won. That is why you are IRON-13. That is why your name is known across the galaxy. Jack looked up at the Admiral. I do not feel like a legend. I feel like a man who survived when better people died. That is what makes you worthy of the name, Talos said. True warriors do not seek glory. They carry the weight of those lost and honor them through their actions. Outside the bay, the base continued its morning routine. But inside, 2 warriors stood in silence, connected by the understanding that only those who have faced death truly share. Why did you become a mechanic? Talos asked finally. Because I could not lead anyone else to their death, Jack said simply. I fix things now. It is simpler, safer, and lonelier, Talos observed. Jack did not deny it. The Admiral moved toward the door, then paused. The Coalition owes you a debt, Jack Morrison. Humanity owes you a debt. One day we may need to call on IRON-13 again. I am just a mechanic now, Jack said. No, Thalos replied. You are IRON-13, that will never change. The Admiral left. Jack sat alone in his bay, surrounded by broken equipment and old memories. The legend had returned, but the man still carried the weight of the past. He opened the drawer and looked at the photo again. 12 faces stared back at him. 8 of them were ghosts now. I am sorry, he whispered to them. I am so sorry. But the photo offered no forgiveness, only silence and the memory of what was lost. 3 days after the truth came out, the alarms started screaming. Jack was in the maintenance bay, working on a damaged scanner array, when the base alert system activated. Red lights flashed across every corridor. The emergency channel crackled to life on every speaker. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Jack dropped his tools and moved toward the command center. Years of military training kicked in despite his age. Other personnel rushed past him, heading to their assigned positions. The organized chaos of a base preparing for combat filled the hallways. He reached the command center just as Admiral Thalos was reviewing tactical displays. The screens showed a map of the surrounding territory. A red marker blinked 20 kilometers north of the base. Report, Thalos ordered. A Quelari communications officer spoke quickly. Patrol Deltanine sent a distress signal from Dead Rock Canyon. They are under heavy attack. Krell remnant forces, approximately 200 hostiles. What was Deltanine doing in Dead Rock Canyon? Thalos demanded. Diplomatic escort mission, sir. They were transporting envoys from 3 coalition species to a peace summit with local settlers. Thalos's eyes narrowed. How many personnel? 15 Marines, 12 security contractors, and 8 civilian envoys. Send reinforcements immediately. The tactical officer shook his head. Sir, Dead Rock Canyon is a dead zone. The terrain is too rough for standard dropships. Heavy mining from previous conflicts makes vehicle approach impossible. Standard reinforcement protocols estimate for hours to reach them by ground. They do not have 4 hours, Thalos said. No, sir, they do not. Jack studied the tactical display. Dead Rock Canyon was a nightmare of narrow passages, cliff faces, and unstable rock formations. Worse, it was littered with old mines and unexploded ordnance from battles fought years ago. No wonder the Krell had chosen it for an ambush. What about alternate routes? Thalos asked. All standard approaches are blocked or too slow, sir. Jack stepped forward. There is another way. Everyone in the command center turned to look at him. Thalos raised his head. Explain. The old supply tunnels. They run under the canyon from the abandoned mining complex, 8 kilometers west of here. They were sealed off years ago because they were considered too dangerous. Why were they sealed? The tactical officer asked. Structural instability, toxic gas pockets, and limited oxygen supply, Jack said. But they would get a small team to the canyon floor in 90 minutes instead of 4 hours. Thalos studied the map. Even if we use the tunnels, we would still need someone who knows how to navigate hostile territory with minimal support. Someone who understands guerrilla tactics and unconventional extraction. The Admiral looked directly at Jack. No, Jack said immediately. You know what is at stake, Thalos said. Send your special forces. They are trained for this. Our special forces are deployed on the Eastern Front. They cannot return in time. Thalos moved closer to Jack. We need someone now. Someone who can lead a small team through impossible terrain against superior numbers. I have not done this in 25 years. Some skills do not fade, Thalos said. You are IRON-13. I was IRON-13. I am a mechanic now. The Quelari communications officer interrupted. Sir, we are receiving updated intel on the trapped envoys. Go ahead, Thalos said. One of the civilian envoys is Dr. Elizabeth Kane, xenobiologist. She is the daughter of Victor Kane. Jack went very still. Victor Kane, his demolitions expert, the man who had stayed behind to blow the charges at Kessler Station so the others could escape. Victor, who had smiled before he died. Victor's daughter, Jack said quietly. Yes, Thalos confirmed. She followed in her father's footsteps, studying alien species and promoting coalition unity. She is one of our best diplomats. Jack closed his eyes. He saw Victor's face in his memory. Young, confident, always making jokes even in the worst situations. Victor had talked about his daughter during those long nights on Kessler. He had shown Jack a photo of a little girl with bright eyes and her father's smile. Now that little girl was trapped in a canyon, surrounded by enemies, waiting to die. I cannot do this, Jack said. Yes, you can, Thalos replied. People died last time I led them. Good people, and many more lived because you led them. Thalos placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. I am not ordering you, Jack Morrison. I am asking, please, help us save them. The command center was silent. Everyone waited for Jack's decision. Jack opened his eyes and looked at the tactical display. 20 kilometers away, people were dying. One of them was Victor's daughter. Victor, who had sacrificed himself so others could live. I need volunteers, Jack said finally. Small team, no more than 6, including me. I will put out the call. Thalos said. No need, sir, a voice said from the doorway. Danny Hayes stood there in full combat gear. Behind him were Krath and Genza, also armed and ready. We volunteered, Danny said. You do not know what you are signing up for, Jack warned. We know enough, Danny replied. We know you are IRON-13. We know you do not quit. We know you bring people home. I lost 8 people last time. You saved 41, Krath rumbled. Those are good numbers. Jack looked at the 3 young Marines. They were so young, too young, just like his old squad had been. But they were also determined, and time was running out. 2 more, Jack said. I need 2 more volunteers. Within minutes, 2 more soldiers stepped forward. A human sniper named Angela Morris and a Vrexian combat engineer named Drell. Both were experienced. Both understood the risks. Jack looked at his team. 5 soldiers, including himself, against 200 Krell in hostile terrain with no support and minimal equipment. Dad, it was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of mission he had done before. Get to the armory, Jack ordered. Light load. Maximum mobility. We leave in 20 minutes. The team moved out quickly. Jack turned to Thalos. If we do not make it back, you will make it back. Thalos interrupted. You are IRON-13. Jack did not argue. He headed to the armory, his mind already running through tactical scenarios. The years fell away as his training reasserted itself. He was not a mechanic anymore. He was a soldier again. In the armory, Jack selected his weapons with careful precision. A reliable plasma rifle, a sidearm, combat knife, and basic survival gear. No heavy armor. Speed and stealth would keep them alive, not thick plating. The rest of the team assembled around him. Danny watched carefully, trying to learn from every choice Jack made. Why no heavy weapons? Danny asked. Because we are not trying to win a battle, Jack explained. We are trying to extract civilians from a kill zone. Heavy weapons slow us down. What if we run into heavy resistance? Then we avoid it. If we cannot avoid it, we hit fast and disappear. We are not heroes charging it. We are ghosts moving through the dark. Jack pulled out his old combat armor from a storage locker. It was scratched and dented from countless battles. On the shoulder plate, faded but still visible, was the designation. IRON-13. He put it on piece by piece. The armor fit differently now. His body had aged, changed, but the armor remembered. When he was fully geared up, Jack turned to his team. They stood at attention, waiting for orders. Listen carefully, Jack said. This mission is not about being brave. It is about being smart. You follow my orders exactly. You move when I say move. You stop when I say stop. You do not improvise. You do not try to be heroes. Understand? Yes, sir, they responded together. Good, because people who try to be heroes on missions like this usually end up dead. Jack checked his weapons one final time. Our job is simple. Get in, get the civilians, get out. Fast and quiet. What about the Genza asked. What about them? Jack replied. They are just obstacles. We go around obstacles when we can. We remove them when we cannot. He led them to the transport that would take them to the old mining complex. As they boarded, Jack looked back at the base. Somewhere in that command center, Admiral Thalos was watching the tactical feeds, hoping for a miracle. Jack did not believe in miracles. He believed in training, tactics, and determination. The transport lifted off. Through the window, Jack watched the base grow smaller. He thought about Victor Kane, about the man who had died 25 years ago so others could live. Now, Jack would try to save Victor's daughter. He owed his old friend that much. The transport flew into the darkness, carrying 6 soldiers toward an impossible mission. In the back of the craft, Jack Morrison sat silent and still, preparing himself mentally for what was coming. IRON-13 was going back to war. The old mining complex was abandoned and dark. Rusted equipment lay scattered across the ground like bones. The entrance to the supply tunnels was sealed with a heavy metal door covered in warning signs. Jack placed a cutting charge on the lock. Everyone back. The team moved behind cover. The charge detonated with a sharp crack, and the door swung open. A blast of stale air rushed out from the darkness below. Lights on, Jack ordered. Stay close. Watch your step. They descended into the tunnels single file. Jack led the way, his rifle up and ready. The tunnels were narrow and damp, with exposed pipes running along the ceiling. Water dripped somewhere in the darkness. Danny followed close behind Jack. How do you know these tunnels are still safe? I do not, Jack replied. But they are faster than going around. Sometimes you have to take risks. They moved through the darkness for nearly an hour. The tunnel branched several times, but Jack navigated confidently, reading old markers on the walls that most people would have missed. Krath had to duck constantly to avoid hitting his head on low-hanging pipes. How much further? 2 kilometers, Jack said. We should reach the canyon floor soon. A sound echoed through the tunnel. Everyone froze. Jack raised his fist, signaling silence. The team waited, barely breathing. The sound came again. Scratching. Movement. Something was in the tunnels with them. Positions, Jack whispered. The team spread out as much as the narrow tunnel allowed. Angela Morris, the sniper, moved to the rear. Darrell, the engineer, readied a plasma torch that could double as a weapon. A creature emerged from a side passage. It was not Krell, it was something else. A scavenger species that lived in the tunnels, feeding on whatever it could find. The creature hissed at them, showing rows of sharp teeth. Hold fire, Jack ordered. It is just scared. We are in its territory. He slowly pulled out a ration pack and tossed it toward the creature. The thing sniffed the food, then grabbed it and disappeared back into the darkness. Keep moving, Jack said. Quietly, they continued through the tunnels. The air grew thinner and harder to breathe. Danny started coughing. Control your breathing, Jack told him. Short breaths. Do not panic. Easy for you to say, Danny gasped. No, it is not. I am just better at hiding it. Jack kept his voice calm and steady. Fear is normal. Panic gets you killed. Feel the fear, then move anyway. They reached the end of the tunnel system 30 minutes later. A metal ladder led up to the canyon floor. Jack climbed first, slowly pushing open the access hatch. Dead Rock Canyon spread out before them. Tall rock formations created a maze of passages and dead ends. In the distance, Jack could hear weapons fire. The trapped patrol was still fighting. Jack pulled himself onto the canyon floor and took cover behind a rock. The rest of the team followed, moving quickly and quietly. Genza, scout ahead, Jack ordered. Find me the patrol's position and identify enemy concentrations. The Selkith nodded and disappeared into the rocks, moving with incredible speed and silence. While they waited, Jack studied the terrain. The canyon was perfect for ambushes. The Krell had chosen their battlefield well. Genza returned 15 minutes later. I found them, half a kilometer northeast. They are pinned down in a natural depression, maybe 12 hostiles surrounding their position. But there is a bigger problem. Tell me, Jack said. The main Krell force is about 200 strong, positioned between us and the extraction point. They are preparing for a final assault on the patrol. Danny swore quietly. 200 against 6. Those are terrible odds. Yes, Jack agreed calmly. So we will not fight them directly. Then how do we extract the patrol? Jack pulled out a small tactical display and marked positions. We create a diversion. Draw the main Krell force away from the patrol. Give them a gap to escape through. That is suicide, Angela said. Only if we stay and fight, Jack replied. We hit them fast, make noise, then disappear. Keep moving. Never let them pin us down. That is guerrilla tactics, Krath observed. That is how you survive when outnumbered. Jack looked at each team member. Drell, I need you to rig explosives at 3 points. When I give the signal, we blow them in sequence. Make the Krell think we are a larger force attacking from multiple directions. The engineer nodded and began preparing charges. Angela, find high ground. Pick off targets of opportunity, but keep moving. Do not stay in one place more than 2 shots. Understood, the sniper said. Krath, you are our heavy hitter. When we need to break through enemy positions, you lead, but do not be reckless. The Vrexian warrior touched all 4 fists together in acknowledgement. Genza, you are our eyes. Stay mobile, report enemy movements. Yes sir, Genza said. Danny, you stay with me. I will teach you how to fight when everything goes wrong. Jack checked his weapons one final time. Remember, our goal is not to win. Our goal is to create an opening for the trapped patrol to escape. Once they are clear, we extract using the same tunnel we came through. What if the Krell follow us into the tunnels? Danny asked. Then the tunnels become a kill zone that favors us, Jack said. Narrow passages, limited movement, nowhere to flank. We could hold those tunnels with half our current numbers. The team moved into position. Drell placed his charges while the others created a loose perimeter. Jack watched the Krell forces through his scope. studying their patterns and behaviors. They moved like insects, coordinated but predictable, good for overwhelming attacks, poor for adapting to changing situations. Charges ready, Drell reported. Good. Everyone in position. Confirmations came back over the comm channel. On my mark, Jack said. 3, 2, 1, mark. The first charge exploded on the eastern side of the Krell position. A column of rock and dust erupted into the air. The Krell forces immediately shifted to face the threat. 5 seconds later, the second charge detonated to the west. The Krell scattered, confused and trying to respond to multiple threats. Now, Jack ordered. Angela's rifle cracked from her sniper position. A Krell commander fell. She fired again, hitting another target, then moved to a new location. Krath charged a small Krell squad that had separated from the main group. His forearms swung with devastating force, scattering enemies like leaves. Jack and Danny moved through the chaos, their movements coordinated and precise. They hit targets quickly and efficiently, then disappeared before the enemy could respond. The third charge exploded, and now the Krell were in complete disarray. Their forces split, trying to engage threats from multiple directions. Genza status on the patrol. Jack called. They are moving, Genza replied. The Krell pressure has eased. They have a clear path to extraction. Good, keep them moving. We will hold here for 2 more minutes, then fall back. Those 2 minutes felt like hours. Jack's team moved constantly, appearing and disappearing, keeping the Krell off balance. It was exhausting work, requiring absolute focus and perfect timing. A Krell soldier got too close to Danny. The young corporal hesitated. His rifle jammed. The enemy raised its weapon. Jack shot the Krell before it could fire. Clear your jam and keep moving. Danny worked his rifle's action frantically. Thanks. Thank me later. Move now. They continued the fighting retreat. Angela reported that the trapped patrol had reached the extraction point and was boarding dropships. All units, fall back, Jack ordered. Converge on the tunnel entrance. The team began withdrawing, but the Krell had finally figured out how small Jack's force actually was. They stopped scattering and began coordinating a counterattack. They are coming, Genza warned. Large force, maybe 50 units. Faster, Jack said. We need to reach the tunnels before they cut us off. They ran through the canyon, using cover when they could, exposing themselves when they had no choice. Plasma fire streaked past them. A shot hit Angela's shoulder plate, spinning her around. She kept running. The tunnel entrance was ahead. Drell reached it first, followed by Genza. Krath turned and fired suppressing bursts to cover the others. Jack and Danny were the last to reach the entrance. A Krell blade sliced across Jack's arm, leaving a deep cut. He ignored the pain and kept moving. They tumbled into the tunnel. Drell was already planting charges at the entrance. Blow it, Jack ordered. The engineer triggered the explosives. The tunnel entrance collapsed, sealing them inside with tons of rock. They were in complete darkness for a moment before their lights flickered back on. Everyone was breathing hard, adrenaline pumping. Sound off, Jack said. Anyone seriously wounded? I took a hit to the shoulder, Angela reported. But I can move. I am fine, Krath said. Same here, Genza added. Good. We move in 30 seconds. Rest while you can. Danny looked at Jack's bleeding arm. You are hurt. I have had worse, Jack said. He pulled out a medical pack and quickly sealed the wound. It will hold. They moved through the tunnels faster now, knowing the way. The journey back took less time than the journey in. When they finally emerged at the mining complex, transport ships were waiting. Admiral Thalos stood by the landing pad. When he saw Jack's team emerge, he walked forward quickly. The patrol is safe, Thalos reported. All envoys extracted successfully. You did it. Jack nodded tiredly. Good. Dr. Elizabeth Kane asked to speak with you. A woman approached. She was in her 30s, with her father's eyes and his confident walk. She looked at Jack with recognition and gratitude. You are IRON-13, she said. You saved my father's life once. The medical bay was quiet in the early morning hours. Jack sat on an examination table while a doctor finished treating his arm. The wound was clean and would heal without complications. You were lucky, the doctor said. Another inch and it would have severed an artery. I know, Jack replied. The doctor left him alone. Jack flexed his arm carefully, testing the bandage. It would be sore for a few days, but he had dealt with worse pain before. Someone knocked on the door. Admiral Thalos entered, carrying something wrapped in cloth. How is the arm? The admiral asked. Fine, I have had worse. I know. I read your medical file. Talos set the wrapped object on the table. The Coalition Council wants to award you the Star of Valor. It is the highest honor we give. I do not want it, Jack said. I told them you would say that. Thalos unwrapped the cloth, revealing a metal case. Inside was a collection of medals and commendations. These are the awards you refused 25 years ago. The Coalition kept them, hoping you would accept them someday. Jack looked at the medals without touching them. I did my job. I do not need recognition. The recognition is not for you, Thalos said. It is for the people who need to believe that heroes exist. It is for the young soldiers who need someone to look up to. I am not a hero. I am just a man who survived. You are wrong. Thalos closed the case. A hero is not someone who never feels fear. A hero is someone who acts despite fear. Someone who leads when others would run. Someone who sacrifices for those they protect. Jack said nothing. I spoke with your team, Thalos continued. They told me what happened in the canyon, how you directed the battle, how you taught them to survive, how you took a hit protecting Corporal Hayes. That was just tactics. No, it was leadership. Thalos sat down beside Jack. I have commanded soldiers for 40 years. I know the difference between a good soldier and a true leader. You are the latter. I lost people, Jack said quietly. 8 good soldiers. They died following my orders. And 41 people lived because of those same orders. Millions more lived because of the technology those scientists developed. Thalos put a hand on Jack's shoulder. You cannot save everyone, Jack Morrison. No leader can. But you can honor those who fell by continuing to fight for those who still live. Jack looked at the old photo he kept in his pocket. The faces of Iron Squad looked back at him. For 25 years, he had seen only their deaths in those faces. But now, for the first time, he tried to see what they would have wanted. Would Victor want him hiding in a maintenance bay, tortured by guilt? Would Carson want him refusing to help people who needed him? Would Lisa want him to waste his skills and experience? No, they would want him to keep fighting, to keep saving people, to honor their sacrifice by living fully, not hiding from life. What happens now? Jack asked. That is your choice, Thalos said. You can return to your maintenance bay, or you can do what you were meant to do. And what is that? Lead, teach, train the next generation of warriors. Thalos stood. We need you, Jack, not as a mechanic. As IRON-13, the Admiral left the medals on the table and walked to the door. He paused before leaving. Think about it. The Coalition can always use good mechanics, but right now we desperately need good leaders. He left Jack alone with his thoughts. 3 days later, Jack stood in front of a training facility. Young recruits from multiple species were assembled in formation. They looked eager, nervous, untested, just like Iron Squad had been before their first mission. Admiral Thalos stood at a podium. Attention, today I am pleased to announce a new training program, Advanced Combat Tactics and Leadership, taught by someone with real experience in the field. The recruits murmured among themselves. They had heard rumors, but did not quite believe them. Your instructor, Thalos continued, is Sergeant Jack Morrison. Call sign IRON-13. The murmuring stopped. Every recruit stood straighter, eyes wide. Jack walked to the front of the formation. He wore a simple training uniform, not his old combat armor. But his bearing was military, his presence commanding. At ease, he said. The recruits relaxed slightly, but their eyes never left him. I am going to teach you how to survive when everything goes wrong, Jack began. I am going to teach you tactics that are older than most of your species' spaceflight programs. I am going to teach you that expensive equipment and advanced technology mean nothing if you do not have discipline, teamwork, and the will to keep fighting. He walked along the formation, studying each face. Some of you think being a soldier is about glory, about medals and honor and having people call you a hero. He stopped and turned to face them. You are wrong. Being a soldier is about making impossible choices, about leading people you care about into danger, about carrying the weight of those who do not come back. The recruits listened in complete silence. I am going to train you hard. Some of you will quit. Some of you will decide this life is not for you. That is fine. Better to know now than to learn on a battlefield when other people's lives depend on you. Jack looked at Danny Hayes, who stood in the front row. The young corporal had volunteered to help with the training program, but for those who stay, Jack continued, I will teach you everything I know. I will teach you how to lead, how to think under pressure, how to bring your people home. A young Selkith recruit raised her hand timidly. Sir, is it true you held Kessler Station for 3 days? Yes. Is it true you faced 5,000 krill with only 12 soldiers? Yes. How did you survive? Jack looked at her for a long moment. By remembering that survival is not about being the strongest or the fastest or having the best weapons. Survival is about refusing to quit, about thinking when others panic, about trusting the people beside you and making sure they can trust you. He gestured to the training grounds. Now, we start with the basics. Everyone pair up. We are going to work on hand-to-hand combat. The recruits moved quickly, excited and nervous. Jack supervised their training, correcting stances, teaching techniques, sharing knowledge earned through decades of experience. Danny approached him during a break. How does it feel, being back? Jack watched the recruits practicing. They were clumsy and inexperienced, but they were trying. They were learning. Strange, he admitted. But right. The team wants to formalize, Danny said. Make it official. A new Iron Squad. Jack looked at him sharply. That name has weight, history. You're sure you want to carry it? We already carried it into combat, Danny replied. In the canyon, we were Iron Squad then, even if we did not have the name officially. Jack considered this. A squad needs more than a name. It needs discipline, training, trust. Then train us, Danny said. The way you trained the original Iron Squad. That will not be easy. Nothing worth doing is easy, Danny replied. You taught me that. Jack almost smiled. Almost alright. But we do this right. Proper training, no shortcuts. Yes, sir. Over the following weeks, Jack threw himself into teaching. He worked with recruits during the day and trained his new Iron Squad in the evenings. Krath, Genza, Angela, Drell and Danny became his core team. He pushed them hard, teaching them everything he knew. He taught them how to read terrain, how to anticipate enemy movements, how to improvise when plans fell apart. He taught them that the best warriors were not the ones who never felt fear, but the ones who acted despite it. One evening, Admiral Thalos visited the training grounds. He watched Jack working with his team, drilling them on tactical scenarios. You have changed, Thalos observed. You seem lighter. Jack paused to catch his breath. He was not as young as he used to be, and the training exhausted him. But it was a good exhaustion earned through purpose. I stopped hiding, Jack said. I stopped running from what I was, and what are you? A soldier, a teacher, someone who can still make a difference. Talos nodded approvingly. The coalition made the right choice when they asked you to return. I have not returned, Jack corrected. I never really left. I just forgot for a while. The new Iron Squad gathered around him. They were getting better, faster, smarter. They were becoming a real team. That night, Jack returned to his quarters. On his desk was the old photo of the original Iron Squad. He looked at those 12 faces, the ghosts that had haunted him for so long. I am sorry it took me so long, he said quietly to the photo. But I am honoring you now. I am making sure your sacrifice meant something. He opened a drawer and pulled out the medals Thalos had given him. For 25 years he had refused them. But now he understood their purpose. These medals were not for him. They were symbols of what his team had accomplished, of what they had sacrificed. Refusing them was like refusing to remember their courage. He pinned the Star of Valor to his uniform, not because he wanted recognition, but because it represented every member of Iron Squad, living and dead. The next morning, Jack wore the medal to training. The recruits noticed immediately. Word spread through the base. IRON-13 had accepted his honors, but more importantly, IRON-13 was teaching again, leading again, living again. Danny approached him after training. Sir, I have a question. Go ahead. Why did you finally agree to come back? What changed? Jack thought about Victor Kane, about Elizabeth Kane, about all the people who had lived because someone fought for them. I realized that hiding from the past does not honor the dead, he said. Living well honors them. Fighting for others honors them.